Oh, you clicked on this video? What's the title of this video? Ah, I see. That makes sense. Hey, Skylar, come here. Look, I clicked on this video.
Aw, poor thing.
Yeah, I know, right? Well, mate, how do I put this? It's safe to say, I guess, that you can just click out of this video right now. There's really no point. All jokes aside, guys, I don't know my multiplication tables. And I don't mean in the cute, relatable way where you're just trying to act dumb to impress your group of even dumber friends. I mean, I genuinely cannot tell you what 7 times 6 is without opening a calculator app.
What's 9 plus 10?
21.
You stupid.
I also don't know how many states there are. I don't know the capitals of most of them. I can't even tell you what I did yesterday without processing for like 20 minutes and thinking so hard it looks like I'm constipated. If you're following me here, or perhaps you can even one-up me, here's the question that's on your mind right now. Am I stupid or am I not? And today I'm gonna answer that for you. I'm also gonna explain how people like us, including myself, have gone on to build wildly successful lives. By the end of this, I think you're gonna feel significantly less bad about yourself, which honestly is a reasonable goal for a Tuesday. Let's get into it. For most of my life, I was surrounded by what I can only describe as fully formed humans. People who just know things on demand immediately. Someone asks them a question and the answer is just there, fully assembled, like it lives in a little filing cabinet in their head with good lighting and a very organized label system. My brain does not have a filing cabinet. My brain has a junk drawer. You know the one everybody has in their kitchen. It has batteries that might be dead, 14 rubber bands, a takeout menu from a restaurant that closed in 2019, and at least one mystery key. That is my brain. In 2005, researchers Angela Duckworth and Martin Seligman ran a study on middle school students. They measured IQ, they measured self-discipline, and they tracked the performance over time to see which one actually mattered. Self-discipline predicted academic success twice as well as IQ did. Twice, as in 2 times more, as in the thing they never tested you on matters significantly more than the thing they built the entire education system around. Which is kind of insane when you think about it, right? Most of us spend our entire childhood being measured by one specific thing. You sit in a chair, you fill in some bubbles, you either remember what they told you to remember or you don't. And if you didn't, that score followed you around like a bad Yelp review you can't take down that's not even about your establishment.
Horrible dancers, bad performance, and no rhythm.
Sir, this is a Wendy's.
Here's what the test was actually measuring. Your ability to sit still, memorize things you didn't care about, and perform on demand in a very specific format that almost no real life situation ever looks like. That's not intelligence, that's what you would call compliance. And I was so bad at this in school, I actually guessed all the answers to the questions of the ACT because trying to answer them was like torture to my brain. And what's funny is that I was not the person with the lowest score. There was still 12 other students who got a lower score than I did. So what about the people who were really good at compliance? A lot of them are still sitting somewhere right now, very comfortable and very stuck, wondering why all that smartness never turned into anything. Meanwhile, the people who got mediocre scores are out here building things. I'll give you a personal example of what this looks like for me. I've had clients where I'm sitting in a meeting and they are speaking a language I genuinely do not understand. Technical stuff, right? Industry jargon, things you'd probably need an MBA and a very boring personality to follow fully. And part of my brain is just going, what is happening right now? What are any of these words? What am I doing here? Who invited me? And then it's my turn to speak. And by the grace of God, something comes out of me that makes sense. We turn it around and I close the deal. A multi-6-figure deal with a billion-dollar company.
I'm bad at being basic. I can't play it safe. Turn my house to diamonds. Watch me flood the place.
And for a long time, I thought that was luck, but it wasn't. It was the hours I'd already put in beforehand, right? The deep dive into their industry, the videos I'd watch at midnight, the podcasts I'd listen to while working out. That wasn't about my IQ. That was me being prepared. That is called showing up. And showing up is something anybody can learn, even if you're dumb. That's a simple but important lesson, but here's something that actually got my attention. KPMG surveyed female executives across major industries. 75% of them reported experiencing imposter syndrome at some point in their career. 75% of executives, women who have built careers, women who have the title, the salary, the business cards with the embossed letters.
Look at this. Nice.
And 3 out of 4 of them at some point sitting in some meeting thought, I have absolutely no idea what I'm doing, and it's only a matter of time before everyone figures that out. So here's what this tells us. The feeling of being dumb is not a reliable indicator of whether you are, in fact, dumb. It is, however, a very reliable indicator that you are a human being who is paying attention. Because I genuinely thought for years that something was wrong with me. I could build things, right? I could sit with a client and pull a strategy out of thin air that they've been trying to figure out for months. But internally, it never felt like enough. It always felt like I was one question away from getting fully exposed as some kind of elaborate imposter who had accidentally wandered into adult life and nobody had noticed yet. And honestly, I still feel that sometimes. But the difference now is that I understand the feeling is not the truth. The feeling is just a feeling, and you have to learn to keep moving through it instead of letting it be the reason you stop. What made that click for me was looking at the actual resumes of people who had the same feeling and built something anyway. Winston Churchill failed most of his exams. His teachers thought he was a genuine disaster. He became Prime Minister of Britain and won a Nobel Prize. At some point, somebody had to have been like, wait, the guy who failed Latin is running the country? Richard Branson dropped out of school at 16. His headmaster told him he'd either end up in prison or become a millionaire. And he went on to build the Virgin Empire, a man with such impressive discipline to remain a virgin for all those years. Jack Ma failed his college entrance exam 3 times. He applied for 30 jobs and got rejected from every single one of them. He even applied to KFC when they were hiring 24 people, 1 job opening per person in a small room. He was the only candidate they turned away. That man went on to become China's richest person. KFC went on to introduce the Double Down, also an extraordinary feat of man-made edible garbage. And Thomas Edison's teacher literally called him addled, as in mentally deficient. His mother pulled him out of school and started teaching him at home. He went on to hold over 1,000 patents, and he's the reason why that little bulb inside your head turns on when you have an idea. These are not stories about people who turned out to be secretly gay, smart. They're stories about people who decided the score they were handed early on was not the final score. And here's the thing, that is a decision you can make at any point, including right now. Now, I want to get more specific because I don't want this to be a highlight reel of famous people with nice origin stories, right? I want to talk about what's actually different about the way some of our brains work and why it might actually be the thing that saves us. I have ADHD. And for a long time, the way I understood this was my brain is like a sports car with a 32-year-old Silicon Valley trust fund woman gripping the wheel. I have no control where it goes. I cannot switch between 2 clients in my head on the same day at the same time. If I've been deep in one person's industry and someone asks me about a completely different project, I have to stop, go back to the old notes, watch a video, and get myself recalibrated. My brain needs a warm-up lap, sometimes 2, and sometimes a warm-up lap for the warm-up lap. For a long time, I thought that meant something was broken. But here's what I didn't understand until later. When my brain actually wants to be somewhere, something completely different happens. Whenever a new client or a new industry walks into my life, my brain just lights up. It wants to understand how everything works. It goes down every single rabbit hole simultaneously. And suddenly, I'm talking about wood manufacturing or architectural design or metal and timber connections. Like I've been living inside this industry for a decade. And the people in the room are always looking at me like, wait, does this person actually know things? And the answer is, I did it in the car on the way over, but yes. And here's the thing, a lot of people with ADHD or people who just feel scattered or people who feel like they're not the smart type have some version of this capacity to go absolutely nuclear on something when the brain actually wants to be there. The problem is that most of us have been pointing that energy at things we genuinely do not care about, and then wondering why it felt like pushing a boulder up a sand dune. David Neilman founded JetBlue. He has dyslexia and ADHD. He said, I knew I had strengths that other people didn't have. And he built an airline with ADHD. I have to check what gate my flight is every 5 minutes because I keep forgetting with my ADHD. So the question isn't whether you're smart enough. The question is whether you found the thing your brain actually wants to run towards to. So here's the practical piece. And I want to be very specific here because the find your passion is exactly the kind of advice that you find embroidered on a pillow at your grandma's house. Here's the formula on how you can win in life, even if you're stupid. Figure out the 3 to 5 things you need to do every single day in whatever it is that you're building. Do them. Come back the next day. Do them again. Keep going. Not for 30 days like some kind of influencer challenge. Think in terms of 5 to 10 years minimum. That is it. That is the whole thing. And I know that sounds too simple to be worth saying out loud in a YouTube video, but just think about this for a second. Every person who has ever built something significant has done exactly this. They showed up and did the boring, necessary thing over and over for long enough that results started appearing. And the people who didn't make it, most of them were not less capable. They just quit before the compounding interest showed up. They looked at the gap between where they were and where they wanted to be and decided that gap was evidence that they weren't cut out for it, which is a very easy mistake to make. It is also the most expensive mistake you can make. But here's where it gets a little bit more specific for people like us. You have to tie that work to something your brain actually wants to go towards. I love things having to do with nature, space, how things work. I used to watch Discovery Channel and Animal Planet obsessively as a kid. I still look up random space facts at 11 p.m. at night for no reason at all. I do not have a career in space or animals, but what I realize is that when something lights up that same part of my brain, it stays engraved in me for a very long time. And that is what you need to find. What have you not fallen out of love with in the last 5 to 10 years? What things have you been curious about without anyone making you? Pick one of those things and then figure out how to build something around it. A YouTube channel, a platform, a service, a tool, whatever makes sense. And then do the work consistently for longer than you think you should have to. Because a lot of people who feel like they're not smart enough, they quit things early. They don't get into the weeds because they don't believe they're capable, but they never actually gave themselves the chance to find out. They were inconsistent. They left before the results showed up. Colonel Sanders dropped out of school in 7th grade, started KFC at 62 years old. If that man had been thinking about the next 30 days instead of the next 30 years, the double down wouldn't exist. And that is a loss for all of us. I'm building this channel right now. And honestly, I don't care where it is at the end of this year. I care where it is in year 10, when I'm in my 40s, looking back at things I kept showing up for. That's the timeline. That's how this works. And I know it's hard to hear that when you already feel behind, but the only way you're actually behind is if you stop. Okay, so one last thing, because understanding all of this and actually moving are 2 very different things, as my printer, which lived on the floor for 8 months, can confirm. First, stop trying to learn the way everyone else learns. Research shows that spaced repetition, studying in shorter sessions spread out over time, is dramatically more effective than cramming everything in at once. And active recall, actually testing yourself instead of rereading your notes, locks in information way better than in passive review. For people like us, this matters a lot because we can't just hold information the way a normal brain holds it. So we have to be smarter about how we put it in. Short sessions, in and out, in and out. You guys are dirty. But test yourself. Let your brain build the actual connection over time instead of trying to force the whole thing on a Sunday night and then watching it evaporate by Wednesday. Second, learn your own warm-up time and respect it. The best version of me does not show up in the first 30 minutes, or honestly, sometimes the first hour. The best version of me shows up after I've had time to get back into the material, get my brain actually engaged with the space, and get warmed up. And once I'm there, that's when the good stuff comes out. The people watching you when you're in the zone never see the warm-up. They just see the results. So don't be embarrassed about how long it takes you to merge into traffic using the on-ramp. But for the love of God, slow down or speed up, but choose one. Third, Stop comparing your timeline to other people's timelines. You might need 2 or 3 times as long to genuinely understand something. That is fine. It just means you need more time. And a longer on-ramp is not the same thing as a dead end. And fourth, build around your natural curiosity and not the thing you think you're supposed to care about, because you will never outwork someone who genuinely loves what they're doing. That is just a fact. So find the things you've been curious about for years without anyone telling you to be curious about it. The thing you look up at weird hours for no practical reason, and then figure out how to build something around that. That's the thing that actually works, and it's never on a productivity app. I'm building this channel because I genuinely believe there's a version of content creation that works for people like us. People who tried every system, every app, every accountability partner, and still couldn't get it to stick. Not because something is wrong with them, but because nothing was built for the way our brains actually work. I'm building that, and this channel is me proving it works by doing it first, not just talking about it. If this is the kind of content you've been looking for, subscribe. I make videos specifically for ADHD creators and scattered thinkers who want to build something real. And if you want to see what I'm building on the platform side, the link is in the description. But I'll see you on the next one. Cheers.